Okay, so for those of you who are skilled in the art, as some would say, this is a Kyosho Ultima RB6. This is a used RB6. I found it on RC Tech for a very reasonable deal, and it's in exceedingly good condition, so I'm quite happy with the deal that I got. Now, why exactly did I get an RB6? Well, let's go through my inventory of cars and two-wheel drive buggies and what I use them for. I have a vintage RC10, which is a rear motor car. I generally use that when I'm tooling around in stock buggy races and I just want to have some fun and, put the mid-motor guys to shame. I have a B5M Factory Light, which I use also in stock buggy racing when I want to be a little more serious. I have a B5 rear motor, which I run on, typically I would run it on a loose dirt surface. But I also run it on hard packed dirt as well. It performs just fine. What other two-wheel drive buggies do I have? I think those are the main ones. Those are all dirt cars. What I do not have is an AstroTurf car, and I could take either of those three cars and set them up for AstroTurf, and I'm sure they'd be fine. But it's generally easier for me to just have a car that I can dedicate to a particular surface and set it up and uh, just grab the car when I want to run on that surface, basically. So I figured that the one of the tracks that I usually race at, they recently made a switch on their indoor surface to AstroTurf. I haven't tried it out yet because we're still in the outdoor season, and I want to use the good weather while it remains in the Northeast as an opportunity to get as much outdoor racing in as I can. So in the meantime, I am preparing some of my cars for AstroTurf. So my Kyosho Laser, for example, that's going to be my current plan is to make it a dedicated AstroTurf four-wheel drive buggy. I bought gear diffs for that to assist with that endeavor. And then for two-wheel buggy, I figured, well, if I'm going to run a Kyosho four-wheel buggy, why don't I run a Kyosho two-wheel buggy on AstroTurf so I can just only bring my Kyosho parts to the track and it would be easier. So I figured I'd get an RB6. Now, why did I get the RB6 and not the RB6.6? If you look closely at the RB6.6 and what the specifications are, there are only two things that are really different. The first one is the chassis. I think the chassis is a little bit wider than the RB6 chassis, and they've milled, they put like maybe a few extra holes in it, and that's basically it. The second thing is the addition of a lay-down gearbox. So with the RB6, you can do rear motor, mid-motor, or mid-motor 4-gear or mid-motor 3-gear gearboxes. With the RB6.6, they add on top of that a lay-down gearbox, which is designed more for AstroTurf. So basically, if you ignore the difference in the aluminum chassis, you're spending $100 extra for a lay-down gearbox. So I figured, okay, why don't I get an RB6? Then maybe I can find just the lay-down gearbox parts and spend less than $100 on that, and basically have an RB6.6. That would be one logical outcome. Another possibility is that if I can get a good enough deal on a used RB6, I can get an RZ6 conversion, which is what Jared Tebow used at the FMR Worlds in Japan. And that was AstroTurf, and it performed very nicely. And I could just run that. So I decided to go with that latter option. So here we have in this box is the Kyosho RZ6 conversion. Now, all things considered, if considering the price that I paid for the buggy and for the conversion, the total price would be more than what you would pay for a brand new RB6.6. But at the same time, when I got this buggy, it came with a whole bunch of spare parts. It came with some nice hop-up options like some titanium turnbuckles, an aluminum steering rack, stuff you would have to pay extra for anyway, even if you bought a brand new kit. So I think I still got my money's worth, some really nice aluminum hinge pin braces and everything. So I'm going to try to go with the RZ6 for AstroTurf. And I just genuinely think it would be more interesting intellectually for me than to do you know, a lay down gearbox assembly on a conventional mid-motor chassis. So the RZ6, it's not the best unboxing video here, but it's quite literally a Laser ZX6 rear end mated to an RB6 front end. So literally the first step in the instruction manual is to tear off the front end on your RB6 and dump it onto the RZ6 chassis. And then you know, the rest of the build, you're basically just building a ZX6 rear end, you know, Laser ZX6 rear end, with the only exception being that on the Laser, the stock rear suspension arms are flat. On the RZ6, they have you use the RB6 gull wing rear arms, and they give you all the appropriate parts to set up the rear stabilizer bar on those gull wing rear arms. With the Laser ZX6, you have to, you know, if you want to run gull wing arms on that, in the past you had to play some games to get the stabilizer bar to, you know, be set up correctly on those gull wing arms. But now that they have the RZ6, you can just look at the manual and look at what parts you need to make that work seamlessly if you want to run gull wing arms in the back of your Laser. So I'm going to go through and build this. Since I already did a Laser ZX6 build series, I don't think there's much that I could have to offer by doing a step-by-step or section-by-section build series for this chassis, because it's literally just a Laser rear end and an RB6 front end. I did the RT6 build series, I did the ZX6 build series, so you know, there's nothing really new here. So instead I figured I'd just kind of give you my thoughts on this. So you know, before I've even built it. In terms of pricing, I think Kyosho is taking advantage of the pricing of their individual parts to price the RZ6 where it's at. This is not a full kit, it is a conversion, so it does not come with the front and rear shocks, for example. I'm pretty sure it does not. Oh yeah, okay, it comes with the rear universal, so that's fine. But basically, whatever you don't need in an RZ6 conversion, because you already have it on your RB6 buggy, this kit doesn't come with. And despite that fact, the RZ6 costs about $270 or $280. So that's almost as much as a Team Associated B6, which is designed for AstroTurf and carpet. It has a laydown gearbox and it's a full kit. So some people might say, well, why would you spend the money on an RZ6 conversion if you could just spend a little bit extra and get a full kit from Team Associated? It's a completely valid point. I do not dispute that. I simply want to try something different. And I think having this kind of hybrid sort of four-wheel drive rear end and two-wheel drive front end is just something really cool to try and play with. And I'm willing to spend a little bit extra to try that out. I did initially think about just parting out or trying to look up what parts I would need for an RZ6 conversion and then pricing that all up if I bought the parts individually to see if I could save some money. It doesn't look like you'll save money because, simple things like the aluminum motor mount, this will cost maybe $50, right? The rear universals on their own, they may cost $30 or $40. So it doesn't take very long for some of the parts to add up very quickly in cost. So you're really just better off buying the conversion kit, despite the price. Okay. So I'm going to have this built. I do not know exactly when I'll be able to do a track test on the AstroTurf track. I'm hoping, maybe within the next 2 months, give or take. Because, again, I want to race outdoors as much as I can while summer is still here. But, I'll have this done eventually. Probably, early fall, thereabouts. And I'll do, the usual running videos and review and everything. But just bear with me and I'll have something on this. But I think it's a cool design. So let's go through the manual a little bit while we're at it, because I'm really probably going to make just one intro video here. So you put the front end on, put the servo on, you put the chassis braces on, then you attach the front tower and the front cover to complete sort of the front end of your RB6 here. After that, you put on the rear hinge pin brackets and the gull-wing arms, right? This is just a body cover set. There is a correction apparently in the manual for how to mount the gear diff. So, you put the lower part of the rear gearbox on, you build the rear gear diff, and this is the Law 50 part, LAW50. It's literally the Laser ZX6 gear diff, okay? It does not look like they tell you what oil to use. They may provide you with oil, actually. Let's take a look. I think they provide you with oil. We have diff. These are all the gear diff parts. No oil. Okay, so they don't give you any diff oil as a start. And it does not look like they give you a suggestion on what oil to use. But, you can go to Petite RC and look up setups for the RZ6. Chances are they're probably going to be in the 10,000 weight range, maybe 7,000 weight range, depending on the track. So something around there. And then you, of course, install the gear diff in the gearbox, and because there's a little correction page here, you don't install the gear diff this way, you actually install it the other way. And then after that, what do? You do some stuff with the rear bulkhead and the rear tower. And then after that, you come over here. Yeah, there's some chassis bracing in the center. This is where you start to do the drivetrain. So this is, your laser slipper clutch setup, exactly the same thing. You put on the motor mount, you mount the slipper clutch with the center rear drive shaft, you put the cap on, then you get to, the universal, the hub carriers, and then, you pop those on, you put the turnbuckles on, and then you get to the anti-roll bar. So these are the parts that you would use for the ball cups and ball ends and everything for the rear stabilizer with the gull wing arms. Okay, so you put all that together. These don't pop on, they actually screw into the bottom of the arm. So that's a difference to the laser with the flat arms. The bottom ball cup here pops into a little ball stud that's molded into the arm. You put the sway bar on. Still with this Kyosho tendency to have you put the sway bar, have it end 2 millimeters outside of this little ball stud here. I commented on this in the ZX6 build series. It'd be a lot easier if you could keep it flush. I'm not sure you'd really notice much of a difference anyway. But in any case, that's what the manual tells you to do as a starting point. Mount the shocks, no big deal. Put the motor in, and then you're ready to, mount your electronics, and you're ready to go. So literally, Laser ZX6 rear end with gull-wing arms and an RB6 front end. Yeah. So that's the RZ6. And we'll see how this one goes. So thanks for watching.